Hey guys, Rick Davis here with you again from LearnTVProduction.com. Check out my website for plenty of free tips and techniques on video production, including working with DSLR cameras, which is what I want to talk about more today, specifically about trick photography and special effects. Now, as I've mentioned before in other videos, owning and using a DSLR camera to produce videos is a great tool to have. It provides unbelievable high-quality videos, awesome depth of field, and for a far lower price point than if you bought a traditional camcorder. But, you know, there are, of course, some downsides shooting video with DSLR cameras as well, but those are points to discuss in a separate video, so I won't deal with that today. What I want to talk to you about today is some really cool trick photography effects you can achieve using your DSLR camera. I came across these effects outlined in a book and a video series by a guy named Evan Sharboneau entitled, suitably, Trick Photography and Special Effects. I want to go over some of the cooler special effects that Evan outlines in the book. The first one is extended exposures. Extended exposures is probably one of the oldest techniques around that you can achieve using an SLR camera or a DSLR camera. And really it's done with just a couple of very simple techniques. So the first thing you've got to know or need is a tripod. You've got to use a tripod to ensure that your camera stays rock solid steady while you're taking the photo. This is because you're going to use very long exposure times to get the look you're trying to achieve. It allows low levels of light to make it through to your exposure, and the camera staying still as possible allows any of the other objects in it to be in focus as well. The second thing you got to know is you're going to use the bulb or B shutter opening on your camera. Just to give you some background on this, the term bulb or B refers to very old cameras used to use this rubber ball device that basically when you squeezed it, it would push air through that held the shutter open. And when you released it, it would close the shutter. For whatever reason, they've just stuck with that term, and you'll see B or bulb on your camera. So that's basically what it is. So if you look at these shots, like cars moving at night, this is one of the more better known ones with this technique. And what happens here is because the cars themselves aren't all that reflective, or not nearly as much so as the light source they're giving off from headlights, you see the light stream and not the cars themselves, or very, very little amount of the cars. Another cool one you can do is called light painting, which is the same sort of technique. What happens here is you're photographing a light source that's constantly in motion. And because the light itself never stops shining, you always see the light in the final picture. But the device that gave you the light, like a candle or a flashlight or a cell phone, it doesn't have enough light on it to reveal it in the photo, just like the same with the car. You couldn't see the car, but you could see the car effect. So it's the same sort of thing. If I can give you one helpful tip here, you need to set your focal length when you're taking this picture. So what you do is, say you were to take an object like a cell phone or the flashlight and hold it to where you want your camera to be focused. Get the camera to go sharp in focus at that point, and then switch your camera over to manual. That locks the focus in that position. And then you're good to go. You can start experimenting and trying these things with flashlights, with gel lights, gel sticks, to get the kind of effects that you're seeing here. And also taking another shot, a night shot or whatever you like, as your background, and mixing those two. Infrared photography. Why take infrared photos? It's a really dynamic look that many DSLR cameras can achieve. Infrared photography will darken a clear, bright sky, but it'll leave the clouds completely brilliantly white. It also works really well with any nature shots, anything that has moisture in it, any foliage like plants, leaves, grass. It'll turn them pure white. It is a really, really cool effect you can see here. Now, pretty much all cameras have the ability for infrared photos, but the cameras themselves have infrared light blocking filters in front of the camera sensor. Some cameras' infrared blocking filters are stronger than others. So if your camera has a weaker filter, you can purchase an external infrared filter that screws onto the front of your camera and allows you to achieve the results that you see here. Evan describes in his book a neat technique using your TV's remote control to determine the strength of the infrared sensor in your camera to see if you can get these kind of techniques. It's a really, really interesting one to look at and to play with. Okay, I want to talk about a third technique here, and that's using Photoshop in your photography. Now, having Photoshop, it's another great tool to have in your basket of photo goodies. A technique I want to talk about today is called layering. Now, if you've never used Photoshop before, it's a lot easier and cheaper than you may realize to use it. You can get a scaled down version of Photoshop for as little as around $79, and something known as Photoshop Elements, which can do all these effects that I'm trying to show you here. So here are a couple of examples of Photoshop layer technique that give off really dramatic looks. This one was really simple to achieve. The first shot was taken using a soft diffuse light source. I believe he probably bounced this off a reflective board and then back onto the subject. And in this shot, the subject had a dark background around him. Same time. Now this was taken with a tripod again. And then the second shot, the guy's in the exact, subject's in the exact same spot, but this time he's putting his camera, or rather his hands in front of his face. And then through Photoshop, a really simple technique of just layering, and you get this look. Really dramatic. Here's another one. This shot was achieved by taking multiple shots, again using the tripod to ensure that the structure never moves, and then you go into Photoshop and you use the layers options to get this look. He added, Evan added a third technique here. He dropped in another layer of those birds that you see to give it a neat detailed look as well. So some of these techniques I've shown here really make you feel like you're getting the most out of your DSLR camera. I highly recommend you check out more about trick photography and special effects by Evan Sharboneau. I provide you a link to learn more about this book and series below, so check it out. I'm Rick Davis. I hope you found this video helpful. If you want to see more of my videos, check out my website, learntvproduction.com, to learn more tips and techniques about video production. Thanks for watching, guys.